Hi, welcome to Jacky Rom Investigates. And yes, I am Jacky Rom. So, welcome to my show. I'll be chatting to lots of interesting people with amazing, extraordinary lives and just having a little chat. So, let's see who we've got on the show today. Hi, Fay, how are you?
Hello, Jacky. I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, really good. I'm kind of really excited about chatting because I know I know you. So when we start chatting, we can go for hours and just and kind of mending the world type of thing. So I'm quite excited about that. Do you mind just telling my viewers what you do, and then we can start having a chat about it.
Yeah, okay. So the kind of work that I do is soul work. I work a lot with people might know of it as mediumship or a psychic, but I work in a slightly different way because I'm kind of an eclectic of different things. So I'm psychotherapy based. So I have, a lot of experience working in counselling and psychotherapy, but I also work very shamanically. So that's kind of working in a similar way to mediumship, but working very much with a lot of earth-based kind of teachings and belief systems. And I'm also a healer, a shamanic healer. So a bit of everything. I call it soul work because ultimately what I'm working with all the time is the soul. So I'm connecting to your soul and to the souls of people that have passed over. And I'm helping to heal your soul and helping to communicate with your soul. So that's the work I do.
So hold on. So now let's go back to the beginning. How did you know that you had this in you, or is it hereditary?
Well, this is the thing. Some people think it's hereditary. I believe that we all have the ability to connect to our own souls because we all are born as a soul incarnated into a physical body. You know, we are energy and energy is the soul. And part of our bodily vehicle, if you like, is made up of a physical cellular body, but also an energetic body. And I think from a very young age, psychologically, I just knew there was more to life than just this physical existence. And I'd kind of felt that I'd been here many times before. And I think from a very young age as well, I was very imaginative, and I could see and have visions, and I used to speak to spirit people. So from very young, that was present. But also within my family, because we come from very humble beginnings, me and my family. I grew up in the East End of London, very poor upbringing, brought up by a single parent mother, and that side of the family were quite spiritual anyway. My great nan used to read tea leaves, and she used to hold seances in her lounge, and she used to talk to her dead son that used to come and visit her. She used to lay a place in at the table, and they used to have conversations and that kind of thing. So, and then when I was 18, I found my real father, because I didn't know him growing up. And I then found out that I was from a long line of Romany gypsies, and people that were very spiritual also. So,
so you had both sides.
Yeah, so both sides, but I wasn't aware of that as a child. I just obviously found that out as I started to begin my adulthood. So yeah, I think it's a mixture of nature and nurture. I think, you know, your mediumship can develop, but it's always there for you to be able to access, like from the minute you're born, because we are still connected to the source, the divine source from where we come, you know.
So go back, because you said something that is fascinating. You said you found your real father. Now hold on. Did you go looking, or did he come looking for you? What happened, and how old were you?
Well, from a very young age, my dad wasn't in my life from as long as I can remember. I don't actually have a memory of him being in my childhood at all. And I was born with sisters, all with the same father. And so growing up, there was no dad. So it was just a very women's kind of strong environment growing up. It was me, my nan, who was like second mum, and my auntie, who was also like a third mum. So it was just all women, like there were like three witches, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
It was very much like that growing up. And then I've always kind of fantasized about one day I would meet my dad. And I think now I know that was my psychic knowing that I would come into contact with him at some point. And I literally just found out from my mum that my grandfather, his dad, lived opposite us in a tower block and had lived there for years, and we didn't know. So I took the courage at 18 to walk up to his house, knock on his door and say, "Hi, I'm your granddaughter, and I'd like to get in touch with my dad." And he opened the door.
Hold on. That's such a big statement. Hold on. 18 years old. That is amazing. Yeah. So hold on. You tell me what it was like. You knew he was there. You knocked on the door. What did he say to you?
He knew who I was. I went up there with my neighbour because I was too scared to go on my own. And as I went up to the door and he opened the door, he said, "Oh, all right." He knew who I was. And I said, "I'm Fay." And he said, "I know who you are, darling." He went, "Come in." And then he literally phoned my dad. And it was really strange because as I walked in his flat had a whole wall full of photographs of the whole family, obviously via us because we weren't in it, but all of the different grandchildren, all of his children. It was like a photo album on the wall. So he was talking us through all these family members that we had. And bearing in mind, we'd come from a very small family. It was just me and my 3 sisters, my mum, my nan and my auntie. That was it. We never had any cousins. We never had any like other aunties or uncles. It was just that. So then we found out we had this massive other family. Another interesting story that happened to me when I was quite young. I was doing my hairdressing apprenticeship, and I was in the hairdressers doing this lady's hair, and I just had this sense of I knew her or she was connected to me in some way. And we started having conversations and talking, and I'd known that I had another brother, that my father had fathered a child before us girls were born. My mum had told us this years ago. And that he lived in a similar area to us. So we could have gone to school together. I could have dated him for all I knew. Do you know what I mean? So I didn't know him. And this lady came in and sat down, and unbeknownst to me, but I kind of had a sense of it, she was my brother's mother. And so we then started chatting away, and I said to her, she started talking about her son, and she said his name was Mark. And I said, "I've got a brother called Mark." And the conversation just started onto it. And then she said, "What's your dad's name?" And I told her, and she went, "Oh my God, my Mark's your brother."
I've got goosebumps. Yeah. You can literally.
So then we ended up in my brother. My dad's never even met him. So we then ended up meeting my brother as well, all around about the same time. But he didn't want to have anything to do with my father. So that was fun. We sort of had a relationship with him for a few years. And then he kind of went off and did his own thing, and we lost contact. But I stayed in contact with my dad for the last 25 years, and we've got a good relationship now.
So can you do a reading or when somebody's virtual like this, or do you have to be, face to face?
Yeah, you can do it virtual. I prefer to do it face to face because I prefer to sit in the energy and the company of somebody. And I think working as a therapist, because I've obviously worked as a holistic therapist as well as a psychotherapist, I prefer the one-to-one connection. But you can do it like this because you're accessing that person's soul, their energy field, which is effervescent. So it is omnipresent. It is all around. So it doesn't have to be in person.
And do you tell people if you can feel something not good? Do you tell someone?
I think you have to be very careful with things like that. I mean, obviously, you have to be a very responsible person when you're becoming when you start to develop as a medium. It is kind of like working as a counsellor or a psychotherapist. You do have a responsibility to other people. I think if we're not qualified to diagnose health conditions. We're not qualified to give any kind of information like that. But I think if you was honestly feeling that something was of worry, then I think you would word it in a certain way. You wouldn't give negative news, but you would kind of say, I'm feeling maybe there's a little bit of an energy shift around, your chest or something like that. Maybe, you could get that looked at, or how are you feeling lately? You could kind of approach it in that way. But no, I wouldn't actually give bad news because I just don't think, to be honest with you, I don't think you actually really get that most of the time anyway. And in my experience, there's never been, a time when I've received very bad news for somebody. But sometimes you can get a sense that their relationship isn't going to work, or that maybe they've got some test results coming that they might not be as happy to receive. But there's ways of wording that to somebody, and sometimes it's just not your place to say it. You feel into that energy of what's appropriate and what's not, and that's what the difference between what makes a good medium and a bad one. Because some people just want the shock factor. They want to get everything right. They want to be that person that's delivering all of the nuggets to say, oh, I got that right. But sometimes those journeys are for those people to experience themselves, and sometimes it's not for you to tell them up front. Sometimes it's part of their journey as well. So you have to understand that when you're working as a medium, or a soul worker, which is what I prefer to be called. You play that by ear, and you feel into the energy of that person and their soul and what's happening.
I'm guessing, and this is a guess, that lots of people come to you because they've lost someone, or they want something, an answer, and you haven't always got the answer they want.
Yeah.
Is that quite common?
Yeah, and that's quite difficult, because some people come to you as a medium and they want you to take control of their life. So rather than them deal with their own stuff and deal with their own situations, they want you to either give them permission to do something or tell them how things are going to be, so that then they don't have to take responsibility for making their own choices and decisions. And you do get that a lot. And again, that's another way of being a responsible medium, is that when you feel that in someone's energy field, that you address that with that person. And and that's why I think, and it's probably not a nice thing to say, because obviously there's some very gifted mediums out there that aren't psychotherapists or counsellors, but I think it massively helps your mediumship delivery and your ability to help heal somebody with your mediumship, if you can, intuit that into the reading, and feel if that person is being resistant, and that they're wanting you to give them answers to things. To say, I feel as if, maybe you're not wanting to take responsibility for this particular area of your life, or that you need me to give you the answer, because when you go to see a medium, it's not about them giving you answers to things. And this is one of my bugbears as a medium and a soul worker. Oh, sorry, hold on, came off. You're back on. Sorry. This is one of my bugbears as a soul worker, is that people have such high expectations of what they want you to deliver, in that, we're working with energy. It's not a phone call. It's not, people see these things in the movies and they think that's exactly how a mediumship connection or a soul connection happens. It really doesn't happen like that. It's a very complex combination of feelings, senses, tastes, smells, visions, audible things that are happening, and the medium is having to try and process all of those things that are happening. It's like loads of apps being open on your phone, and they're all working, and you're trying to process that to be able to deliver it in some kind of verbal format that makes sense to that person sitting in front of you. So, for example, if you have someone that comes through to connect with somebody, they may show themselves in your mind's eye of what they look like. You might see them standing in front of you. You might hear them telling you their name. You might feel how they passed over. So it could be a collection of all these different things. You might hear them shout out 35, or it just works that way. So you might smell pie and mash, or you might smell a particular perfume they wore, or you can taste something like scotch on your tongue, or there's all these different ways, because they're using your senses. And going back to what we spoke about before about how mediumship starts to develop, it's using the mechanics of mediumship developed from a young age, your psychic ability, your intuition, and they have particular names, which is like clairvoyance, which is clear seeing and being able to see, and there's clairaudience, which is clear hearing, clairsentience, which is clear feeling and sensing, and there's a few others as well, claircognizance, which is just a knowing of something. So all of these things are developing for everybody, I believe, all the time. But some of us are just more distracted by everyday life and the material and physical aspects of what we're here to do. And others are a little bit more in tune with the energetic aspects of it and the flow of nature. And for those people, reading other people's souls becomes easier, because they're more in touch with that aspect of themselves.
So have you ever been in a position where you're in a normal situation, they've not come to see you, and you need to tell somebody something?
Yeah, that happened to me once years ago, when I met my now best friend, and I moved up here again. This was at the beginning of my mediumship, and I don't think I probably would do this now, because you learn along the way, don't you? And you learn about the responsibilities and the kind of ethical boundaries that you need to have in place as a medium. You know, and I think when you first start learning anything, when you're quite, you know, you think it's all cool, don't you? And you're kind of wanting to share it with everybody. And I was in a pub one evening, and there was this lady that I recognised from down the school, and I could feel this young man come and sit with me in spirit, and he kept saying, "That's my sister, that's my sister, that's my sister." And I was kind of like, "Well, I'm having a drink right now, mate, so you're gonna have to wait." But he wouldn't leave me alone, and he sat with me all till near the later part of the evening. I had to go up to his lady, and I thought she's going to think I'm a nutter, because you know, my children just started school here, and I was thinking they're going to think I'm like a witchy woo nightmare. But I had to go over to her. She was with all of her friends, and I tapped her on the shoulder. I said, "I'm really sorry to do this to you." I said, "I hope you don't mind me coming up to you like this." I said, "But I'm a medium, and I've had your brother here with me all evening, and he's wanted to let you know that he's okay." And she just turned around and she all her eyes with water, and she said, "Oh my God, I can't believe you've just said that." And so then I started to, and I said, "Are you okay for me to carry on?" She went, "Yeah." And then I gave his name, how he passed. He'd had non-Hodgkin lymphoma, and he passed away at 19. And she was only 14 when he passed. And kind of, he came through and he described exactly what he looked like. He was like a Hercules Adonis. He was very good looking, actually, because I can remember saying to her, "Oh, he's a bit of all right, your brother." And she went, "Yeah, he was like this." And that's kind of how the conversation went. And we've been best friends ever since. And that was nearly 20 years ago now.
Really?
Yeah.
I have a strange thing that happens to me. I have mentioned this once before in an interview. If I'm in a casino, Vegas, anywhere, playing on a slot machine, my best friend died when we were 18, and she's behind me. I know she is, and I keep every time I'm playing on a machine, I turn around to see who's there, and I kind of know it's her watching me, and she's never appeared any other time.
But again, that's just your clairvoyance picking up, your clairsentience, actually, in fact, because you're sensing that she's there. We all have this ability to connect to spirit. It's just you have to make this work for you, and to make this something that's more viable for you to use, you have to practice it every day. It's like going to the gym, isn't it? You know, you've got to exercise those muscles for them to become stronger. But we all have the ability to connect to people.
I wonder, the only time I'm totally relaxed and not working, not thinking, is if I'm on a slot machine, because the whole world isn't important at that point.
Yeah.
I wonder, because it doesn't happen to me any other time.
Yeah, but then you're quite a hyper person in general, aren't you? Like, you're 100 miles an hour all the time. So your brain, your psychological brain, your mind, probably doesn't ever get a chance to close its mouth for 5 minutes. So you wouldn't be able to hear or feel that, because you'd be too busy. Your monkey mind's jumping all over the place. So a part of I teach mediumship as well. So and soul work. So part of the one of the first learnings and teachings when you're teaching people how to be able to communicate with the soul and use their psychic and mediumship abilities is to help them to quieten their mind and have meditation techniques and something that's called sitting in the power, where you're allowing spirit energy to kind of flow into your body, and you're feeling what that feels like, and they're like intrinsic, initial parts of being able to develop your mediumship skills and your seership skills. And when we go just a little bit of the history of some of mediumship has been going on a long while now. I think the SNU, or Spiritualist National Union, which is kind of like the religious aspect of it, was kind of forged in the kind of 1800s. 1848, I think, was when the Fox sisters in New York, Hildesville, first recognised the rappings and understood that there was these rappings and tappings on the wall, and they started to communicate with the spirit person. And from then, and they were called out as frauds at a certain point, and it was all kind of pushed under the table. And then it kind of developed from there, really, that there is an ability for a religion, like a spiritualist religion, based on communicating with the spirit world, and it kind of progressed from there, really. But when we look at spiritualism and mediumship and soul work, and all of what it is in actual fact, is we're connecting to souls, to our higher power, to our higher self, and we've been doing that for eons and centuries. If you go back to the tribal communities and the shamans of their time,
and the Egyptians.
And the Egyptians, they've been communicating with spirit, prophecy, prophets. Even Jesus Christ, if you wanted to go down the Christianity route, you know, he was communicating and healing people from then, from years, you know, separating the sea and, you know, all of those kind of things, resurrecting. And, you know, when you look at it like that, people have been using these powerful spiritual senses and abilities for a long time. So it's not just through the Spiritualist National Union or through spiritualism. This kind of thing has been around for years and centuries.
So what do you say to naysayers? And I've kind of, I don't know if this is right or if I'm making a rash judgment. Do more women believe than men?
I don't know, to be honest with you, because there's a lot of men that are mediums. So, you know, I know a lot of men that are mediums, and sometimes the males outweigh the females in mediumship in some places. But yeah, I'd probably say that maybe women a bit more open to it, perhaps, and maybe that's to do with social conditioning. You know, men, you know, not wanting to have, you know, be sensitive or allow their emotions to kind of come out. Or, you know, just being shown. And I think a lot of it's, you know, our social conditioning in that what we're told to believe in and what we're told not to believe in. But again, it's a personal thing. I would never be here trying to convert people. You either believe it or you don't believe it, you know. And that's the bottom line of it, really. It's like anything, isn't it? If you believe in God or you believe in any religion, if you're Jewish, if you're Muslim, you know, you believe in those different gods, but really they're all one God and the same God. It's, you know.
So is it possible for you to read, I think I'm asking that I'm taking on a massive project here. I spent 3 weeks dedicating my life to this project, and I think I'm probably asking, can you see or feel anything through me?
Mm-hmm. What I can feel is that there's a lot of frustration around you. I feel as if you've been trying to run into something and there's been constant barriers in the way. So I feel as if some of what you're trying to accomplish with regard to your work, that somebody else has some control over, so that there's a need to get somebody else's permission to do something or push something through. So I feel like it's kind of like a delay all the time, and that's what I'm picking up on, this frustration of, well, I can't do the next bit until this bit's done, or I can't. So I feel as if there's been this feeling of being overwhelmed a lot of what's happening. But I do feel as well, even when I'm connecting with you, sitting in that space, I can feel a man that draws close around that energy as well. So I don't know if this is your father, but I just get this feeling of a man that draws close here. And somebody that feels that they want to give a lot of love and support. But I also feel with you that I know you're saying you've been writing books, but I get the feeling that there's some connection to either writing or looking at writing a film or making a film about something specific, because I think there's been something else going on that you're doing. So you might be writing or doing 3 or 4 different projects at the moment. And that's what I think is also getting in your way, because I think your brain operates in a bit of a hyperactive way, in that you have all these different ideas, but it has to kind of go, well, that's for that, and that's for that, and that's for that, you know. But you're constantly right, hamster wheel all the time. But I can see that there's this either feature film or something that's in the back of your mind here that you're getting ready to start putting into creation. And it's like an ego or something like this, like an alter ego or some almost like a you, if you like.
Well, I have been co-writing a screenplay, and I had to say stop. I had to say stop because I couldn't cope with everything. There's too much going on, and I've also got a producer who's male, and so and then the other thing is I'm doing all the jobs, and so what's frustrating is I'm not an expert at all the jobs, and I find that frustrating because I'm trying to do camera, light, editing, and everything, where normally everybody else would do it, and I'd just sit down here and, you know, so you're absolutely spot on.
Can I just ask you as well, just out of curiosity, you haven't ever lost a bird, have you? A parrot or an African grey or something like that that's passed in the family? Because I can sense that as I'm watching you, I can see this like parrot or African grey or something to the side of you as I'm looking at you now.
Yeah.
And it must have been something that you had a number of years. And
it wasn't me. I used to babysit it.
Oh, okay. That's what, because I can just see it's almost like it's visiting, you know, just sitting on your shoulder for a moment. And I know that sounds really bizarre, but there must also be some kind of connection to parrots or parrot talking or something to do with copying what people are saying, or, you know, like when you're copying
it was
words.
So hilarious. It's in my house abroad, and I'd be in the pool and I could hear a dog barking. And it was the bird used to bark like a dog. And the bird used to say things like, I've got nothing to wear. And you'd think that its owner was upstairs with nothing to wear. And then I featured it in the book.
Spirit people come through even as animals, you know, the spirit doesn't stop just because you're a human or an animal. It still comes through.
Well, the parrot appeared in one of my books as well.
Oh, there you go. That's because we were talking about your book, you see. So that's why the parrot has obviously shown up. Perhaps he's trying to say thanks for giving me a leading role in one of your books.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely fascinating. When you start, like you are now, does it kind of just roll like I've got to get it all out type of thing?
Yeah, it kind of, you sense it building and feeling it around you, and then it kind of has an energy that just needs to start to be delivered. And when you start in the flow, sometimes when I work, it comes out so quickly because there's so much information coming one after the other, because it's there, you know, and like you'll have a few different spirit people that come through, or maybe a few animals, or there'll be a few life situations that are going on. And to be honest with you, I think because I work as a therapist as well, when I read to people, sometimes there's a lot of deep stuff that comes out, you know, sometimes trauma from the past and things like that. And so sometimes I don't necessarily like to do that in a remote space. Like,
the interesting thing is, my goal and my dream is to have my books turned to film. Yeah. So that might be a little bit about what you're feeling as well, because that's my goal. I
can definitely see that happening. You know, I could see that being something that you can definitely work towards. And I don't know if there's some kind of I know that you mentioned before about detective work, but I can see that there being something to do with espionage or some kind of thing along those lines, like CIA undercover, you know, that kind of
thing.
That's
the series that I was writing.
Like a female Bond.
That's it.
That kind of feel with it. And I can see you almost with a camera case, you know, like there with your little pictures. So yeah, I definitely feel that that's something that's going to be viable for you. But I also feel you've got a very artistic nature, and that you've got a lot of other creative bows, you know, strings to your bow, shall we say. And I think that, you know, I think you're only just really beginning to explore a lot of this, Jacky, if I'm honest. I think maybe your life as a mother and, you know, and a wife and all of those things, and a teacher, and as kind of, although it's seen you well and it's done you well, I think it's held you back a lot as well, in that I think now you've got all this creative time and you're filling it abundantly with as much as you possibly can. And I think it's really enriching your soul as well. It's helping you to grow, and you feel there's this feeling of freedom and, you know, passion and excitement there, which is fantastic. That's what we all want to try to strive towards and achieve in our lives, you know. So I think there's lots more to come for you.
Thank you. Way. I do know that there's an air of confidence that has grown. Yesterday when we were talking you were on my live Q&A, and so we were talking about confidence, and I think the more you do, the more confident you get.
Yeah.
So when you first started doing live Facebook or whatever, you're very critical, and then you get to a point when you say, now stop the criticism, just do your job.
Yeah. And you've just got to be a genuine person, haven't you? I mean, you've got to be who you are, because at the end of the day, you can try and be perfect, but that's not what people really want. They want you to be flawed, human. That's how people will relate to you. You know, you have to be the essence of who you are. And that's the fantastic thing about, again, soul work, because you're expressing your true self, your soul self is coming through in your work, you know. And I think people can see when someone's being authentic and when they're not, and that's a psychic ability in itself. You know, you can sense when somebody's being authentic and when they're not. Simple as that.
And on simple as that. Oh, it's been brilliant. I so enjoyed it. thank you so much.
You're very
because
welcome.
I think sometimes in your subject, it's not always easy to open yourself out to something like this. So I really thank you very much. I really appreciate it. And I'll keep following you. You keep following me, and we'll touch base every now and then.
And when this pandemic's over, you can come for a nice gong healing.
Oh, wait.
Yes, or you can potentially have a nice sacred bowl session. That would be
I
good.
love it. I'll do that. Thank you, Fay.
You take care. Love you.
And you. Bye.